people are armed with powerful weapons. Unfortunately, it makes attacks like these more deadly and more tragic.
Is that too early to be talking about
a Chevy Tahoe with multiple magazines falling onto the ground? It looked like to eyewitnesses, Rod, that one of these shooters was trying to draw police towards him. When one of them got near him, he shot him at point-blank range, and then when he fell on the ground, he stood over him and shot him 3 more times in the back. What do you make of this? This looked like it was a coordinated attack earlier in the evening.
Oh, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, when the first officers got in that area and began to be fired upon, it appeared as though there were some rounds coming at the officers from up in the garage area. So this was clearly an attack that was planned. And some of the witnesses even mentioned that some of the suspects were clothed in camouflage clothing. So that tells us in law enforcement that this thing had to have been planned. Now, the other thing that I think is very significant is that this also has a few little ideas looking like ISIS. I mean, it could have been ISIS inspired. Why do I say that? Because if you look at the last guy who engaged the police for about 2 hours in negotiations, and then he wound up killing himself, you know, that's actually exactly the way ISIS talks about going out of here if they were to go out of here. They will not be taken into custody. So I think the FBI and ATF and other agencies are diligently trying to figure out whether or not this group of individuals were either inspired or either directed by some terrorist organization.
right? And Rod, the guy who killed himself rather than being taken alive by the cops, said the end is coming and he's going to hurt or kill more of us. Regarding police officers, and that there are bombs all over the place in the garage in downtown. That bomb thing too. I mean, that's what we heard from the guy who was a shooter down in Orlando.
Exactly.
I've got a suicide vest. There's IEDs out in the parking lot, stuff like that.
That's right, Steve. And you know, the fact that this guy even mentioned this to the police last night tells you right away that they had thought about this thing before, and that obviously they had planned for this. Now, the police officers responded very quickly, and as a matter of fact, the one that was shot point-blank range, from what I understand, he did get off some rounds at the suspect. Now, according to some witnesses, it appeared as though the suspects were wearing body armor because they didn't go down after they were shot. That's what some of the eyewitnesses said. So, again, you know, this was a well-planned-out attack against these officers.
So the next few hours are going to be all about the motive, what was behind this attack. Where do law officials begin in this investigation? How do they start piecing all of this together from what we know right now?
Well, they've already started doing that. That's an excellent question. They've already started, accumulating information such as who these individuals are, what associations do they have, what's their social media footprint, the vehicle that was allegedly used. They're already running that information. And the most important question now is whether or not there's other individuals out there that conspired with these individuals, and whether or not there's any other planned attacks against U.S. law enforcement. And that's why U.S. law enforcement, as of right now, are on high alert, because we don't know the answer to that question yet.
What do you make about the scene, the location that they chose to carry out this attack, Rod?
Yeah, they just hijacked, I think they hijacked the protesters. Look, we had protests going on in about 12 different cities last night.
Right.
They could have selected any of those cities. So the question becomes, why did they select that particular city? And that's the question that we still have to answer.
And Steve, as you were saying, this is a usually peaceful city.
Absolutely. It's a good neighborhood as well. Rod, stand by. We're going to go now to Dr. Ben Carson.